Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Good afternoon and welcome to Collaborative Connections radio show and podcast sponsored by KLM Consulting. I'm your host, Kelly Lorenzen. We are in the studio in Phoenix Business RadioX inside Max 6, and we are coming on air on Zoom with our guest today. So I'm excited to introduce you. Collaborative Connections is a radio series created to bring entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and associations together to build relationships, foster collaboration, and grow a stronger community together. Our hope for today is that listeners and guests alike will walk away with a golden nugget or a new resource for their business. The sponsor of our show, KLM Consulting, is an on-demand marketing and project management firm with over 17 years of award-winning business savvy. KLM Consulting helps fast-growing companies and entrepreneurs build, brand, and brag about their businesses. Today, I have the honor of being in the studio with three amazing people that I'd love to introduce you to. Thank you all for being on the show. I can see you, but for everybody who's listening, I'm on air with Doni and Larry Smith with Love and Money Hacks. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you.
Absolutely.
And Teresa Kuhn with Living Wealthy Financial Group. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. I'd love to start by introducing you all to our listeners. I know Doni and Larry very well as clients of mine and can't wait to share you with the world. And Teresa is a new friend of mine, so I'm excited to get to know more about you. So if you wouldn't mind, Doni and Larry, can you tell us where you came from, a little bit about your background, and where you're headed?
Well, I guess I'll jump in here first, Kelly. My background was corporate. I was a 20-year corporate guy. I went to work for the Pillsbury Company at the young age of 25 and spent 10 years with Pillsbury. And then after Pillsbury, I went and joined another company for 5 years. And then my last 5-year journey of 20 years in corporate, I was president of the U.S. division of an international company. And while my division, along with about a dozen others, was profitable, they were in 32 countries. And because there were so many divisions losing money, the company closed down in 1996, or early 96, and I found myself unemployed at the age of 44. And, I kind of looked back over that 20-year journey, and I realized that the only thing I really walked away with was relocations and a lot of hours at work. I walked away with 20-year change at that point. And so after a lot of soul searching, we started a business of our own. And everything else changed from that point forward to where we are today. Doni?
Well, my journey to meeting Larry and us coming together and being Love and Money Hacks is being downsized from corporate America. And I decided that I needed to work for myself to raise my two beautiful small children at the time. And I found a company that put me at a convention, and I got to meet this wonderful man. Was a great student and took a lot of notes from all the information and knowledge to grow my business, and our relationship grew into a great friendship, and then a little more after that. So we came together, and 1 + 1 is equal probably about 100 in our case. That's my good financial sense right there.
Exactly.
Kicking in.
Exactly.
That's great. I love it. I love it. So, Doni, you said the business. Tell us a little bit about that. Both of you are started out in Legal Shield, so before owning Love and Money Hacks. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So we have probably a 25-year history in Legal Shield. We've been working together for the last 15 plus years, and in that evolution of having the opportunity to be able to help people both in the legal field to be able to address their legal needs affordably, but also with people that are entrepreneurs like ourselves to help them build a business. Our coaching just kind of expanded to what we now call Love and Money Hacks. Because of Larry's financial studying, because of my personal development studying within the company, it just kind of evolved that people were coming to us for more information beyond just how to sell Legal Shield. And that's how we're here today.
That's so exciting. I love the evolution stories. They're my favorite. Speaking of evolution stories, I know you introduced me to Teresa Kuhn because I know she's a very good referral partner of yours. So give us maybe you can introduce her. How about?
Oh, absolutely. This has been one of the greatest relationships I've had in my life, friendships position, because when I was actually she was referred to me by somebody else. And I went and talked to her, and what she was sharing with me sounded very interesting, but it was one of those things that sounded too good to be true. And so I had to do my research. And so I spent 2 years, and this is the most patient woman I've ever met in my life. She'd say, "Let me send you another book." And she just educated me. Really, she educated me about the benefits of what she did. And today, it's the biggest piece of our true financial security. We make money a lot of different ways, but from a financial security standpoint, she's been a godsend to us because the master is forever the student, and she continued to teach, and I continued to learn. And today, I don't know how many people we've referred to her, and I don't get compensated for it. But the reality of it is I love what she does to help people have true financial security. I think wealth creation, you can always get lucky with a lottery mentality, but I think true wealth creation is really about doing something consistently over a period of time that turns into something rock solid. We've got a lot of money with Teresa because of what she does, but more importantly, because of that security, we're now able to take a lot of risk if we want to on other investments because we know our true financial security is in place. And she's the one that really was my mentor in helping me learn the right way to do that, because I've tried a lot of different ways and none of them ever worked. Teresa got me on the right path. I'll be forever grateful to her. And I will tell you right now that we love referring people to Teresa because of what she does to give people true peace of mind when it comes to financial security. So Teresa, you owe me for that.
I owe you big time. What a beautiful introduction. And I'm going to record that and play it when I'm not feeling so well. So thank you both very, very much. And I want to say a couple things about you guys before I talk about me. Number one, your relationship is absolutely one of the most beautiful relationships I've ever seen. I've ever had the honor of witnessing. And Love and Money Hacks is perfect for the two of you. I mean, I could not think of a better term to describe what you have to offer to the world. And Larry, when we met, you're right, I was a very patient woman. And what's really funny is I've got a lot of really, really smart clients, a lot of engineers. For whatever reason, I attract engineers into my life. Nuclear physicists, rocket scientists, electrical, mechanical, civil, architects, pilots, who I consider engineers because of how they think, like the gamut, all of them, the spectrum. And you at the time won the prize for the client who asked more questions for a longest period of time without buying and reverse engineer everything. And so I love your referrals because when you refer, they're like, if Larry says this is good, I know Larry, he's checked you out. I'm in.
I love
it's the best. Story. It's the best referral ever. And there have been hundreds and hundreds of referrals over the years. And I am so grateful to have both of you in my life. And we'll talk more about how you guys think about money because it's awesome. It's great. That's why you have what you have today, right? Sitting in that amazing, gorgeous RV, traveling the country, living the lifestyle of Riley. And when people hear about your background and your, rags to riches to rags to wealth, permanent wealth, and living the lifestyle that only people can dream of, and on a very small percentage of your cash flow. When people hear that number, oh my gosh. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But let me share a little bit about my background. It is unique. I have a degree in finance. I actually worked for a Wall Street firm in college. Ended up going to law school in Washington, D.C., practiced law for a couple of years. My husband was transferred to Ohio, and I was already licensed in 3 states. I said, I'm not doing this in every state in the country because my value system, my philosophy was to have him support him in his career and knowing that I could do anything. And so I went back to working with money, but over time became very dismayed with the whole traditional, conventional financial way of looking at finances and planning for retirement, because the feedback I was getting from my clients and the experience I was having with my clients is they were not having the freedom that they wanted. You know, for the most part, they saved money. They did everything right, everything by the book, the same way my husband and I were doing things. But the results, you know, and I was future pacing myself through my clients, right? Living vicariously through them. If I keep doing what they're doing, what am I going to have 20, 30, 40 years down the road? And so much of conventional financial wisdom is about getting you from where you are today to retirement and dead. And who does that?
Great.
Who does that support? Who does that benefit? Well, Wall Street, for one, and all the financial services companies like, you know, banks and credit card companies that make interest off of all of the living expenses that you get along the way. So knowing this and knowing the experience I was having with my clients, I went out to the marketplace of financial strategies looking for a solution that was congruent with my understanding of how money really worked. I studied how money really worked. I studied information that today isn't so cutting edge. Back then, if I talked about it, people would have thought I was crazy. But I was looking for solutions and strategies that were congruent with my understanding of how money really worked. And I found one and researched it, sort of like Larry, for a long time, reverse engineered it, looked for the issues with it, because wearing my filter, my lawyer filter, like how could this bite me in the behind after I present this to a client? How can this hurt my clients? What's going to happen 30, 40, 50 years down the road? Like I really researched and looked at it from so many different perspectives and could not find a flaw. And so at that point, I became a student of the master of this concept. We became very, very good friends, dear friend, and worked very closely together, along with a marketer who we'll talk about in a moment, who took this concept to the masses, brilliant woman, and designed my business around helping people with just this concept, just the strategy. And at some point after that, years passed, the three of us met, and here we are today.
That's so exciting. And you guys both talked about, along the way, doing the research and doing the, back work. I think that is part of the success of any business owner, any financial freedom, right? Together. If you do the research, if you plan, and if you, form relationships with the right people, just like we see today, you can be successful and long-term success, not just, quick, like you said, get rich. It's like what's the long-term success for your business? What's the long-term success for your personal life? So I love that. It's like a full circle, right? Of all of it together. I think that's great.
And it's not just research, it's really understanding who's providing the information, because it's not for a lack of information that, Americans are in debt up to their eyeballs and don't have the financial freedom that they want. It's certainly not lack of information. There's so much information out there. We're in the information age. Like we're just drowning in information. It's understanding who is providing that information. What is that information? Who is benefiting from that information? What's the bias in that information? And stepping outside of that and putting on glasses that are as objective as can be and understanding, who benefits from having you think a certain way.
You're right. And speaking of financial issues, I'm sure you guys both hear that a lot. That's why people come to you probably in the beginning. Larry and Doni, why do you think so many people struggle with with financial issues?
Well, I think, first of all, it is lack of education, right? I mean, I think back and there's a thing called the evolution of a belief system. And it's kind of like when we're children, we listen to all the people that are close to us, our parents, our teachers, our clergy, everyone that we know and trust, we look up to. they tell us, to the child, this is fact. And whether they're right or wrong doesn't make any difference, because as children, we don't know the difference between right and wrong. So if mom and dad say this, one of the big conversations we always had, we never talk about money. Well, today that's financial suicide, right? But as a child growing up, my parents said, we don't discuss money. Well, how am I supposed to get a financial education if my parents aren't willing to talk to me about money? And so we grow up with all these different false facts, if you will, that by the time we start to learn on our own, these things are so ingrained into our mind that we believe they're true. So we grow up living and working under false beliefs just because we didn't get the right information in the first place. So that evolution of a belief system is one. Secondly, the education itself financially, and I tell this story a lot because I think it's so important. I was not the best student. I grew up with 5 different fathers growing up, so I didn't have a great childhood. It doesn't make a difference, but that's why I grew up. And so school and I weren't really good friends because I didn't even want to be living at home, right? But the reality of it is when I went to my biology class, I think it was my sophomore or junior year in high school, the teacher said, class, today we're going to dissect a frog. And I remember pulling out that frog out of that formaldehyde jug and pinning it on the board. And I remember as I'm dissecting this frog open, I'm going, I'm not going to be a surgeon. I'm certainly not going to get in the frog business. What am I really learning here? Well, then I went upstairs to English class and the teacher said, class, today we're going to read Silas Marner. And I didn't know the dude. I wasn't going to ever be roommates with him. Why should I care? I mean, I just didn't understand. I felt like I was occupying my time learning stuff that had zero value. Then algebra hit. I failed Algebra 1 the first semester. I failed Algebra 2 the second semester. I went to summer school and they gave me a D-. I know I failed, but they felt sorry for me because I never, for whatever reason, I could never calculate letters and numbers together. It just did not make sense to me. But now here's a good example. I'll be 70 in August. I'm really a Medicare millennial. I'm 70 with the energy of a 30-year-old. But as I look back at that experience, I realized that have I ever had to use letters and numbers? But yet they never taught me how to balance a checkbook in high school. One of the most critical things you should be learning. You should start financial education at such a young age. And if we don't get it, by the time we get out of school, we've already set our financial habits with credit card debt and all these things because we didn't learn. We don't know how to handle it. And we start out our adulthood in trouble trying to figure out how to get out of that mess. Now, that's the large majority of people. It's not everyone, but it's certainly the large majority of people. And that's why we struggle, because we didn't get financial education as children, which we're super big proponents of. But yet at the same time, we really never got it beyond school either, unless we simply went after it like Teresa did. We don't get that in our jobs. We're taught how to become good employees. So the whole combination of all that together is just a financial disaster in most people's lives. And it's hard. I've been through it. I know. I've been bankrupt in 1989. I know all about the struggles of life. And sometimes people say, well, money's not everything. And I always say, you're right, it's not. But being broke isn't all it's cracked up to be either. And I've been both places, so I know. But I think financial education is so critically important to our school system these days. And I think that's the biggest thing we could do to help people live a better quality of life, if that's what people want us to learn. And that's a different story.
That's right. That's a different story. And I think going back to your point of let's start talking to our children about it and our grandchildren. And I know you talked about that before we got on air, is what are the stories we're telling our kids, about money, and the hush hush, don't talk about money, is not the best way to grow up, and so I learn every day from my peers and my clients of what to tell my kids. So hopefully by the time they're hit 18, they'll be set. Teresa, you mentioned the strategy a couple times. What strategy are you talking about?
Well, it's a strategy that's known as bank on yourself or infinite banking concept. There's some different names out there. It's basically using a whole life insurance policy that's specially designed to give maximum cash value upfront for the client, and using it as the foundation of someone's financial financial planning. So to piggyback off the education, I just want to say one thing. Today, people understand the concept of homeschooling. And I've met a lot of clients. And again, I know my clients are a little bit unusual. They're out of the box thinkers, not so much anymore because a lot of people have caught on. Like way back, yeah, totally out of the box. Today, no, people are getting, there's definitely a problem with the system. But, people who have children who are sending them to either private or public schools are also homeschooling at home for those parts of the curriculum that's not being included, financial education being one of them, emotional intelligence being another one, entrepreneurship being another one. Can you imagine today telling a child, you can't talk about finances, you can't talk about money? I was very fortunate. 16 years old, I knew exactly how much my father made. I knew what boards he sat on. I knew his debt. I knew his assets. He shared everything with me. I don't know why, except I was a bit precocious and smart. And I liked money. I liked the conversation of money. But that opened me up to, oh my gosh, there's so many possibilities out here, which is why I chose to study finance probably. You've got to have that education with your kids. What matters most are the basic concepts like we talked about: emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, how to bring value to the marketplace, financial education. If your kids are leaving high school without that as a foundation, I hold you as the parent responsible. It's not the school's responsibility to teach your children this. We wish they did, but there are powers that be. I call them predators who know at 17, 18 years old, I've got it somewhere. My son was getting credit cards in the mail, like $5,000, $10,000 of credit because they knew he was going to go to college and they knew he was going to use that. There are predators out there, and every single one of your children has a mark on their back, a target on their back. It is your responsibility to teach your child. And if you don't, shame on you.
It's so nice that you had that as a, growing up as a kid, because I know a lot of people that weren't that lucky, to be able to know those things. It definitely helps in the, now you can look back and go, oh my gosh, thank goodness he did that. I'm sure that's part of the success of things. And you have, I know Doni and Larry have lots of grandchildren. I'm sure you are constantly talking about money and teaching them. Tell us the story you were saying earlier about your grandson.
Oh, I was talking, it's actually my nephew.
Oh, yeah.
I call him my grandson. It's really my nephew because I'm seeing grandkids and my kids all over Texas right now. But it was my nephew. And I was talking to him about what Teresa did about the bank on yourself, infinite banking concept that Teresa taught me, because typically, and I don't want to get too deep in what Teresa does because I could make a whole training out of what I've learned just from Teresa. So I'll save that for her. But basically, when I talked about using whole life insurance, my brother even said to me, he said, yeah, I was told that a long time ago and blah, 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 blah. And that doesn't make him good or bad or right or wrong, but it just goes to show the difference in the financial education of what, some people form opinions about whole life insurance. And I think I even had my own opinion about whole life insurance before I met Teresa. Once I understood how she used a whole life insurance policy to keep you from paying millions of dollars in debt over your lifetime, certainly thousands of dollars in debt over your lifetime, I went, this doesn't make sense not to own something like this. And I started with one policy. And I think we now have either 5 or 6. But the reality of this thing is it allowed me to understand how to use my own money instead of always having to be dependent on banks. I'm going to give you one example because I was telling my nephew, I said, when I was telling him this concept, even my brother's wife said, David, are you listening to this? Because she was gaining interest in what I was saying. And so David's 18 months older than I am. So he's kind of formed in his ways, again, not good or bad. But as an example of how I've used this, when I bought this RV a couple of months ago, we bought a brand new 2021. And I bought it. And normally I would have to, first of all, save I put 25% down because money's so cheap. I didn't want to finance. I wanted to finance as much as I could because of the returns we're getting with our other money. So I put 25% down. So I put $75,000 down. Now, the normal person would have to, first of all, come up with the $75,000, right? Well, I had the $75,000, but I don't let the banks carry a lot of my money. I might keep $15,000 or $20,000 in the bank just to have immediate access to it, which I'm dwindling down more and more every day and putting in other places. But because I had Bank on Yourself, I just went right over to my Bank on Yourself program and said, send me $80,000. And 5 or 6 business days later, I had $80,000 dropped in my bank account. Now, here's the best part. I didn't have to apply for a loan because it's my money. If I had money in a CD at a bank, I'd have to go in and let them charge me more than what I'm earning to even get it. And in Bank on Yourself, I just went in and said, send me $80,000. And 5 or 6 business days later, I had the $80,000 that I put down. Now, it's my money, so I don't even have to pay this back. Obviously, I will, but the money I pay back is actually just a little bit less than the dividend I'm getting. So if you really understand money, I'm getting paid to borrow my own money, and I didn't need a credit check. It doesn't show up on my credit score. None of the credit reporting agencies know about it. So it doesn't even show debt on me because it's not debt. It's my own money that I have access to because I put it away religiously first instead of last, because you never get to it. And it's that kind of freedom. And I've used it on property in Hawaii. I've used it on cars, of course, paid it all back. You know, the reality of it is I love having the access to what Teresa's taught me about, because now banks don't get any of my money. They just get, I don't owe anybody any money. They don't get my money. I pay my credit cards in full every month. And I think a lot of that is just because I know I'm financially secure for life with what I've set up through Teresa's program.
If I may add to that, and Larry, you're such a great student. There are a couple of things that I want to touch on. Number one, what you're doing when you borrow the $75,000 or $80,000 from your policy, you're now enjoying what's called uninterrupted compounding. If you had taken that money from your savings account and put it as the down payment, is the bank still paying you interest on that $80,000? No, of course not, right? Your balance is now less $80,000. But because you took it from your policy, you're enjoying uninterrupted compounding. And what that means is the insurance company is still paying you the growth on the money as if it was still in there. And yes, you are paying some interest, but when you do the math, you see, like you said, you're earning more in interest than you're paying in interest. So it's a positive. You're making money, right? With that 80,000. Something else I want to say, as far as options are concerned, right? The quality of life, it's one of my overarching values, rules, philosophies that I live with. And it's the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of options that you have. Because you have this policy, Doni and Larry, or these policies, guess what? You have more choices from which to make decisions when you're trying to decide, how am I going to pay the down payment for this RV? Should I finance the whole thing? Should I just finance the down payment? Should I take from here or there? And you know what? At this point, you've had your policies for years and years and years. There comes a point with every policy where you have more money than what you've paid into the policy, and it starts growing pretty exponentially. At the end of the day, you earn so much from your policy. You have so many options, and it didn't cost you anything out of pocket. Because if you put in 100,000, right, but you have 150,000 or 200, 300,000, how much did that policy really cost you? How much did the death benefit really cost you? How much did the living benefits really cost you? Which all that means is you get to access part of the death benefit if you have a long-term care issue, a major medical issue, or you're terminally ill, right? You get to bank on yourself. You get to use the money in there to finance your lifestyle. You can have a family bank. All of your grandkids and all of your kids, they can set up loan payments with you to borrow money from your policy to finance their cars and their major expenses. And that money stays within the family bank. I mean, I could go on, but just wanted to add a couple things there.
So could I. And I'll tell you one thing, Kelly, I did, because I just started doing this as of late. But when my last granddaughter was born, Brinley, Tammy's daughter, first thing I did was call Teresa and said, I want to take out a Bank on Yourself policy on my granddaughter, right? I bought it for her when she was 6 months old. And you know what her life is going to be like. She will never go through the financial struggles that we went through in our young adulthood because of the security she'll have because of the Bank on Yourself program that as grandparents we set up. And so there's so many ways you can leverage this. And like I said, we could do a whole training on this. I know that's not what this is about. So let's just keep going. But it's so valuable. I can't even begin to tell you how valuable it is.
And just as valuable to have the associations with people that know how to help you, right? If we don't have these conversations, if we don't have a place to, a platform or a place to talk about these things, how would we ever know? That's my favorite thing about my business is that I get to meet so many amazing people that are helping so many individuals and companies. It's literally gives me chills every time I think about it, about how many cool clients I have that, that are doing good things for people. And I love those stories. So thank you for that. Changing the subject a tiny bit. Well, you guys have been talking about your grandkids, but I know Doni is a big proponent of her grandbabies, and getting to see them is probably you're loving every second of it, I assume. So on that note, Doni, what do you think, you wished you could have known back when you were their ages that you want to know now, or teach them now that you wished you would have known back then so you didn't have those struggles?
That's an interesting question. And I'm going to divert off the financial topic just because I'm pretty positive my husband's got that covered on schooling and teaching him every chance he gets. With any of the grandkids, he is educating them thoroughly on what to do with their finances. And so that's something that I never had. But the other thing I didn't have was anybody schooling me just on life skills, just maybe a little bit on not to sweat the small stuff, if that makes sense. Those are the things that I try to focus on because I think I missed a lot of my own personal enjoyments, stopping and smelling the roses. I personally have been working on trying to be present and not living in anxiety and letting things that, don't matter long-term affect the current moment, if that makes sense. And so I personally am trying to just be present when I'm with them, but I'm also trying to help navigate them learning that skill at a younger age. Because I think we spend so much time worrying about what is going to happen or what isn't going to happen in the future. And we miss the moments that we could change and make a difference if we would stay present and enjoy what's currently going on. And so, I think that's what I mean about stopping and smelling the roses. I need to do it more. I'm trying to practice it with them. And if I could teach them to miss some of the mistakes that, we made figuring life out, then I'm hopeful that I can make a small difference in helping them navigate.
I love that. Hence the Love and Money Hacks name for your business, right?
Right.
I love that. So what about you, Teresa? Is there something that you wished you would have known at a young age that you teach now?
Gosh, I could write an encyclopedia.
Everything, right?
Everything. Yeah. What do I wish my younger self knew, right? As far as what I teach in terms of my clients, what I wish I had known, the power of compounding interest. I guess I'm going to go to money because that's, the relationships I have with my clients has to do with money. The power of compounding interest, the power of starting really good habits, paying yourself at a very, very young age. The power of entrepreneurship, figuring out a way to bring value to the marketplace. And I think, I can tell you, I've got, just thousands of clients that I've worked with over the years. And my wealthiest clients are entrepreneurs. They're the ones who have figured out how to bring value to the marketplace, be independent, not settle for a paycheck. If you have a job, this is not a criticism. It's just, what is the fastest way to building wealth? The government, from the IRS perspective, from a tax perspective, does reward entrepreneurship. There are many, many people, entrepreneurs out there that have figured out a way to deduct most of their lifestyle. And when you're deducting most of your lifestyle, that means you get to keep more money than if you are working for somebody else. So I think, paying yourself early, paying yourself, putting yourself on a schedule to pay yourself first at the youngest age possible and figuring out a way to be an entrepreneur. I know Larry and Doni would absolutely agree with that advice. And I think that's really super important.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, Teresa. We talk about, there's an old expression, there's never a debt problem, there's only an income problem, right? And while that's partially true, it's also not totally true, because if you don't ever learn how to manage money, no matter how much money you make, you'll always be broke. But the point I think that they try to make in that statement is that the reason there's never a debt problem, it's only an income problem, is because most people trade their time for money. Again, I did it for 20 years. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just a different way. And I realized that as long as I was working for somebody else, I had to wait on them to see value in me before they were willing to pay me more. So, you work for 12 months, you certainly learn more than 2 or 3%, but they give you a 2 or 3% raise. When you're an entrepreneur, you can create money every single day, and you can create it in a way that's residual. So at some point in your life, you can say, I want to slow down. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I just want to mess around with it because I love the business. And the reality of it is you can still earn money every day because of what you've built for yourself instead of depending on someone else. When our company went out of business in 1996, I was the president of the U.S. division. The reality of it is I didn't own the company. And even though my division was profitable, when they went out of business, I was dead broke because I went from a corporate president position to zero overnight. And because I didn't have financial education, and my home was in one state, my job was in another state, the expenses I had traveling back and forth were eating up the part I should have been paying myself. And I think that one of the most important things Teresa said was the importance of paying yourself first. It's such a simple concept to state. I can tell you, I've coached so many people financially over the years. Teresa has too. And everybody says, I got bills to pay first. I got to pay my mortgage. I got to pay this, got to pay that. And then I'll pay myself what's left over. And there's nothing ever left over, because people say, well, I've got money left over, because they track listen carefully. They track what they owe. They don't track what they spend. And because on paper, if you make $1,000 a month and you owe $800, well, you see yourself with $200 left. But you're tracking what you owe, not what you spend. And because you're spending more than $200, now you're in credit card debt. And if you're carrying credit card debt, it means you're living beyond your means. Again, not right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent. But I didn't ever know that. I thought credit card was a new form of income for me when I first got my first one, because I just thought it was, hey, I got more things I can buy now, because wrong mindset. But once you start to really understand how money works, you learn the importance of paying yourself first instead of last. And I can tell you, Teresa or I, either one, could sit down with anybody today. I don't care what your financial situation is. And we could teach people how to put 10% and pay themselves first before anything else. And I don't care how deep a debt people are in, we can show them how to do it, because I've done it with so many people already and watch the success stories come from it.
I love that. That is such a great thing to think about. I used to say that all the time to my husband, who he still owns a big commercial electrical business, but he's also a fireman. And he had, at one point 10 to 15 employees, and he was always paying them first and never having any money left. I'm like, what are you doing? And that's just something I heard along the way, right? Is always pay yourself first. So I love that concept and teaching our kids that, to have the money, have, as my father-in-law says, cash money, have it everywhere, right? Have it diversified enough, and teach your kids, to have money everywhere, including, now I'm hearing about this new strategy, right? So Teresa,
absolutely.
Teresa, what are the strategy? Is there the benefits versus the pitfalls? Tell us a little bit about that, of the bank on yourself strategy.
Well, when you say whole life insurance, it really raises the antenna of a lot of people, because Wall Street, and I will call out Wall Street and the financial institutions, the banks, all of them, they have demonized whole life insurance. In fact, I'll tell you something that's really interesting. They've demonized it. And to a certain degree, the traditional way of designing these policies doesn't benefit the consumer as much as the way we design it. But even those old designs, I've got clients that have policies from 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they will say, this has been one of my best performers. It does exactly what I was told it would do years ago. Every advisor's tried to get rid of it. I didn't. And it has provided me with great growth over the years and death benefit. So even the old design that was demonized is still valid and still good. The ones we do are supercharged, benefit the consumer day one, right? But very interesting, in the 1980s, there was a congressional hearing where the competition presented to Congress testimony saying that the whole life insurance policies presented an unfair advantage. You can find it out there. And if you want to reach us, I can give you that link to the video, to the information. There was congressional testimony that said unfair advantage. And this was to bonds. This was to other types of life insurance. And why was that? Because of the way the whole life insurance gives guarantees and gives you access to your money and gives you death benefit and everything else it does. Think about who's providing the information, who's saying that whole life insurance is bad. Now, Nelson Ash, who was one of my mentors, who really was the grandfather of this concept, using this concept out of the box, because most people just use the concept as, life insurance and as a strategy to save. But you can go back in time, Ray Kroc and Walt Disney and a bunch of people used their whole life insurance when they were trying to invest in their businesses because it was cash that they had access to. Well, Nelson figured out even more things that you could do with the policies, right? And so he, God bless him, beat that drum to one person, 2, 3, 10, 20, 100. He is now responsible for hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people buying these policies with the concept of using it from an out-of-box perspective. It really is just remarkable. And I stand on the statement I'm about to make. I believe, and I know Larry and Doni, you too as well, because now right? Every individual, every family, every business owner needs to have one of these policies. And they need to start one as soon as possible. We could start them on 80-year-olds, and we do, right? We can start them on babies, but the younger you start, the more benefit you can get. Because when are you using money? When do you need a place to park your savings, right? You always do. My son, we started a policy on him when he was 11 and another one at 14. And I regret not starting more. And we put a significant amount of money into those policies. And now he's 25 years old and he has funded a business. He has bought a property. When you look at what he's got going on for a 25-year-old, it is unbelievable. And one day I'll do a case study. And I think Larry and I have talked about it. It's like this guy is set. He's so set for life and he works his butt off. He owns a business. He's a part owner in a family business. One of the greatest gifts I think my husband and I gave him was, funding these policies and teaching him how to be his own source of banker, how to be his own source of financing. Think about who owns the major real estate in your community, who owns the most beautiful buildings in the most prestigious addresses. It's the financial institutions. Why is that? What do they know that you don't know? And do you know, and Larry, I know you know this, banks own more of this life insurance than any other institution. What the heck? Why are they demonizing it? Because they want you to bank and do your financial services with them because they benefit. You don't. This is about empowering you.
I love that.
Hashtag financial freedom.
Yeah, got it.
I love that. Doni and Larry, Doni, you touched on changing subjects a little bit because can you believe we only have 10 minutes left? Doni, tell us a little bit more about why you are so passionate about Love and Money Hacks. Why did you start Love and Money Hacks and what's your hope to help people?
Well, I think for me personally, one of the things that I discovered pretty early on was that nobody taught me the right way to learn this information, like we've talked throughout the past 50 minutes. And so in order for me to change my environment and change what I saw my family did prior to me, I knew I had to do something different. And so that meant studying, personally developing, and learning new concepts, learning new things. And so I'm really passionate about helping people see that if they keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's called insanity, and they're going to keep getting the same results. And if you want to do something about that, you've got to make a change. But what do people fear the most? They fear change, right? What's the one thing in life that's inevitable? Change. So if you can help individuals embrace that change is a good thing, that if you can change your philosophy, change your thought process, understand money, understand how to communicate better, which that's something that I'm ever working on. Hence the love and money hacks. The love part is getting stronger. The financial part's doing pretty good, but the love part, we're still working on it. Again, my husband said, the master is for ever the student. So I am a student of personal development, becoming better, becoming more, doing more, making a difference. And so I feel very blessed that through our Legal Shield business, we've created, a huge a base of friends and mentors of ours, but also people that look to us for information, hence growing into the coaching, helping people personally develop, learn to like themselves. That was like probably my biggest obstacle. And so when we talk about the love part, what it means more for me is teaching people how to love and accept themselves, because once they do that, then they lift the lid on what life has to offer and understanding what life has to give them. And that includes financial freedom. That includes, meeting great people to help mentor you and help you understand about things that can better your life. Hence why we're here talking today. And so I just feel so blessed that we have an opportunity with the base of people that we associate with, that we can pour into them and help make a difference, as others have done with us in our lives, that have made an amazing difference. Again, as we sit here in our beautiful brand new RV, traveling around, creating more great friendships and having more of an opportunity to have some great conversation and pour into the new people that we meet.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What a legacy to leave, right? Teresa.
It's so fun. It's just real quick, Kelly. It's so fun because we're on day 10 of a 30-day RV trip through Texas, seeing our kids and grandkids. And when, there's time is so valuable, and it's only valuable once you realize that, time without money is no good. Money without time is no good. And financial freedom is not an amount of money. Financial freedom is when you have enough passive income coming in that you don't have to work for, because you built something to cover your cost of living. And when I first started working with Teresa, I was paying myself 10% first. Today, we pay ourselves 56% first, because we just lowered our cost of living from 16% down to 10%. Right now, our personal cost of living is 10% of our income. And so when you're living like that, you've got financial freedom. But again, I really put a lot of emphasis on Teresa because of so many principles she taught me and Doni early on that allowed us to help grow this mindset and really pursue true financial independence. So it's been a great ride, and I'll be forever grateful for Teresa for being such an impact on our family.
And the only thing I've got to say is you guys were exceptional students. You absorbed the information and applied the teachings. And I'm forever grateful for having the relationship. I'm forever grateful for having you as an example of you look at your history, and you look at where you could be today. Think about that. Where if you didn't take this information and apply it, both of you, it's not just Larry, who was the financial genius. Doni, you were, and Larry brags on you all the time, how frugal you are, how you're living on 10% of your income and you're still cutting coupons and you look for deals, and how you live your lifestyle. It's not just spreadsheets. You've integrated it. You've baked it into your molecules. It's who you are. You're an amazing testament to what is possible. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Teresa.
I love that. And the back to the associations and being connected with people who can help you do that, right? And there's power in numbers. So the more people that we can all talk to, right? Not just our children and not just, Teresa's clients and not just Doni and Larry's clients, like the more people we can pass this information on to, hence why one of the reasons I like to highlight my clients on air is so that we can pass this information on. It's the power of numbers, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you all for your time today and being on with us. And I know that people got some golden nuggets along the way. And I am forever grateful for Doni and Larry as clients and introduce me to Teresa. I look forward to a great relationship. And to Karen Nowicki, who's in the studio with me producing an amazing show. So thank you all for being on. If we have couple minutes, I just would like you to give the listeners where they can reach you, and if there's anything I missed asking you. So I'll start with Doni and Larry. Why don't you tell us where people can reach you, and if I missed asking anything?
Absolutely. Our website is loveandmoneyhacks.com. It's pretty simple, loveandmoneyhacks.com, and we're always happy to connect with people and give people 15-minute free consultations to help them as
any of our other social media channels are there. And I want to give a shout out back to you, Kelly, because we met you in a time that we were trying to put all of this together while getting our house set up for VRBO and figure out the RV life. And so in that crunch, you came and saved me and gave me lots of great direction. And
very true.
I totally appreciate you helping us navigate and continuing to work with you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Teresa, what about you? Where can people reach you? And did I miss anything?
No, I don't think you missed anything. I think it was an absolutely great conversation. And you can find us on livingwealthyfinancial.com. And our consultations are no charge. And, think about what you've learned here. I certainly don't pay Larry and Doni to, come on and talk about nice things about what we've done. It's for real, right? And I want to thank you again, Larry and Doni, for being just exemplary clients and dear, dear friends. I love you both dearly. I've witnessed your relationship, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Kelly, thank you for this opportunity. It was a great opportunity. I love your platform. I think you're doing great work, and keep it up. And Karen, for the production, thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening to Collaborative Connections radio show and podcast sponsored by KLM Consulting. Tune in on the third Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. Until next time, happy connecting.